India through its project called STARS. And this is the third phase. ये वर्ल्ड बैंक के इंटरवेंशन का तीसरा चरण है जिसे स्टार कहा जाता है। और इस स्टार्स प्रोजेक्ट के संदर्भ में हमारी जो वेबिनार सीरीज है उसका ये दूसरा हिस्सा है। और today we have two very prominent speakers with us. We have Professor Indrani Datta. She is a member of the National Executive of the All India Forum for Right to Education. Um, she was the director of the OKD Institute of Social Change in Guwahati, and after her superannuation from there, she is now an adjunct professor at Cotton University. Her after her presentation, we will listen Professor G. Hargopal. Professor G. Hargopal is a founding member of the Presidium of the All India Forum for Right to Education. Professor Hargopal taught for more than 25 years at the University of Hyderabad, and thereafter, he has been a fellow of the Tata Institute of Social Science. He is a visiting professor at the National Law Center in Bengaluru, and he has he has been associated for last 40 years with the Save Education Committee, and that has been one, I think, the foremost and continuous movement on issues of education. So he has also joined us. Professor Hargopal, by training, is a political scientist, but as I explained, I mean, he has long-standing interest in policy analysis and particularly on educational issues, educational policy. In addition to that, as most of you would know, he has been a big figure in the civic rights movement. So we have two very prominent speakers today. And we, of course, miss the physical presence or even the virtual presence of Professor Anand Teltumde today with us, because Professor Anand Teltumde is not only a member of the Presidium of the All India Forum for Right to Education, but what we are discussing today is part of even his academic research publications. He is someone who worked on globalization, and today, because of the fact that he has been wrongly implicated, he is not with us. But 15th July happens to be his birthday, so I really express my solidarity with him on behalf of the All India Forum for Right to Education, and I express my birthday greetings to him and my solidarities to the entire family. We hope that we took some initiatives in the month of April, and we will continue our fight until the justice is ensured. So with this note, we just start. Remember that at the end, the speakers will be addressing your questions. So you can post your questions in the comment section of the YouTube and Facebook. And as of now, the chat is disabled for the people who have joined through Zoom. But those of you who will raise hand, the host will see whether they enable their chat or allow you to speak. Whatever will be possible, depending upon time and technological support, we will do accordingly. So the last thing I want to say is that since this is the third phase of the intervention of the World Bank in Indian education, and there has been a lot of analysis of the negative impact of World Bank's intervention on education in India. the objective of the series is not merely, although this is an important objective, is not merely to ensure a better understanding of different dimensions of the STARS project, but this dialogue should also lead us uh, somewhere in terms of action as well. So we hope that the discussions, the presentations followed by the question answer sessions today as well as tomorrow will be also helpful in evolving a solid program of action to fight the danger which is lying before us today. So with this, I request first Professor Indrani Datta to make her presentation. She will let you know what she's going to focus, but as much as I know, she's going to uh, uh, enlighten us about the different provisions and the problems with those different provisions of the STARS project. And this is important because in the first discussion on 6th July, we learned about the history, historical trajectory leading up to the third phase of this intervention. So over to Professor Indrani Datta.
Thank you, Vikas. And good afternoon.
Indrani Datta,
yes.
To let you know and everybody that we have our friend Jyoti here. Last time also she translated gist of the talk. So of course, I mean, it is appeal to every speaker that to the extent possible they should try to make it bilingual. But again, it is not a thumb rule. So in case you cannot, then she will give a gist after your presentation.
Okay, let me ask you, Vikas. I mean, is it that I will be speaking for some time and then she will speak, or because it is not possible for me to speak in Hindi?
No, she will speak once you finish.
Okay.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, that is right, I think. Yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't know where to stop and where.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Okay.
So you will have half an hour to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are running late, so
yeah, fine. So good afternoon, everyone. And actually, we all know that on 24th of June, last month, June, Government of India has come up with a sign with a World Bank on a project called Strengthening Teaching, Learning and Results for States, for 6 states. And these were three of them were learning states and other three were the lighthouse states. So essentially the purpose of this project is to prepare addressing the learning outcomes, challenges of India, and to help students better prepare for jobs in the future. So before that, in the last discussion, we had a detailed discussion on how DPEP, which was started in 1994, and Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, which was started in 2001 and 2002, led to the devastation that has resulted in the destruction of the public school system. So we find that India has come away from its constitutional obligations, and especially when it started looking at education from a mission mode. So I tried to see what is really the meaning of mission. So the dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, explains the mission as an important assignment given to a person or a group of people, typically involving travel abroad. So you can see that from around that time, the shift has happened already from the education coming out of the government's responsibility to somebody outside of it. So keeping that in mind, we have to look at the project STARS from the perspective of what are the ideological stances it tries to impact upon the country as a whole through its education, because we all know that education is the main vehicle for bringing in change in the mindset sense change in the society and how it affects the lives of people. So already we discussed in the last presentation how it has these two interventions, earlier interventions, has resulted in the state of public education that is today. And the third intervention which has come now it has, it has selected strategically some stages of education through through Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, which is, earlier it was DPP was for the primary, then SSA was for the elementary, and now this SAR will encompass from pre-primary to that of the 12th standard. That means the entire gamut of the school system, and that means it's affecting more in the lives of the students and the lives of the people at large. So this program is focused on, it has objectives, certain objectives, it influences, it will try to influence the teaching learning content, practices, outcomes of the entire system of education from early childhood care education. It will train and monitor faculty for implementation of the above, and it will set up, most importantly, it will set up a merit-based learning assessment system based on the above too. And it will also formulate and implement governance reform, because in the initial stage of the planning, it has stated that the most basic need for government of India's education system is the governance system, and that it is not run properly, and that it is not measured, outcome is not measured properly. So these are to be reformed. So governance system which is not only cover the actual governance, but would also extend from training of educational officials on the one hand, and to extensive outreach to train even the parents of the participants. And as I think last time Madhuvi has said, that it will go to the grannies also, grandmothers also, how to prepare their children. So it sounds actually very aggressive to a kind of reform. So as a pilot project, it will be implemented for education governance in the 6 states, as I said. The learning states are the lighthouse states. They are the best performing states, which are Himachal Pradesh, Kerala, and Rajasthan. And they will, from them, learning states which are less performance, their performance is not good. In what terms? In terms of outcome, of course. Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Orissa, they will learn from the lighthouse states, and also it will support some of the national programs. It has certain components, and these components are strengthening early years of education, improving learning assessment system, particularly India's participation in PISA, that is Program for International Student Assessment 2021, competency-based assessment, and continuous and comprehensive evaluation. We will discuss in detail about all these later on. Then also strengthening classroom instruction and remediation, involving teacher development and school leadership, facilitating school to work, higher education transition, and strengthening the district as a unit of planning. So we see that in all these, the intention is very clear. This intention of this program, this specific program, is to prepare our students, our children, for a competitive world economy, and which will ultimately lead to the international trade and governance. So, and what it wants to achieve actually, the program objective is stated to improve quality and governance of school education in selected states. And what will be the result? Because there is a component in World Bank funding in financing documents where it says that P4R, the program is for P4R, means program for results. So you will stress that if you go through it, then you will see that all the different sections of it are only stressing upon the results part. So what are the results that they are expecting through these projects? Improved grades in grade 5 national achievement survey performance, improved grade 10 completion, and strengthen learning assessment system. So these are the basic outcome objectives that they are expecting from the project. Now, where are the dangers? Where we find dangers in this project? Because we have already experienced the ill effects of DPEP and Server 6 Albion, and Professor Anil Sargopal has clearly explained in his presentation in the first webinar of this series, showing that these interventions are antithetical to India's basic ethos and aspirations as enshrined in the Constitution. Now in this STARS program, if you read it in the document that which is available in the net, then you will find that there is more scope for transforming the entire system in the line of World Bank ideology to homogenize education and prepare our children towards taking part in the market and in a consumer world. So STAR program, actually, the analysis, it starts with an analysis of India's education system, what it is existing today. This project information document, if you read that, then you will feel that everything is fine in India in terms of, say, growth, economic growth, adults, youth literacy, access to primary education is almost universal now. Then it says that aspirations of students and the parents are now better for better jobs and economic opportunities. Most students are now transitioning to secondary and higher levels of education and training. Then what is the problem? The only problem that they have pointed out is that the children are not completing school and they are not learning at the level that is expected of a particular age or level of education. And how do they know it? They know it because it is reflected in different surveys of learning achievement conducted in the country. Therefore, although these gains have been achieved according to them through the earlier interventions, World Bank interventions, and persistent and pervasive low quality across all levels of education persist. So basically, the STARS program has come up with solutions to these problems. Now, what are these solutions? So if you go through the point by point, then you will see a lot of mismatches that goes in every part of it, in every point that they have mentioned. So it in the World Bank document on final environment and social system assessment, strengthening teaching, learning, and results for states dated April 2020, it talks of, as we know that it talks of the learning states and the lighthouse states, and among them there are states which are very badly affected by pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic. But in that environment and social system assessment, which also talks of pandemic, it takes into account because that came later on in April. The earlier document was written much before the pandemic started. So this document has a little section on pandemic, and which talks of that it is a very grave situation pandemic has created in the sphere of education, and it talks of the imperative of Government of India. So there is a provision for contingency emergency response component of STARS, where World Bank offers to provide technical assistance and interventions to adjust to delivery and training in terms of improving online instruction, training, and coaching of teachers, supplementary print materials, some proposed measures such as sanitization, disinfection of schools, increase in information and technology systems, hardware will all be supported under the progress program for results component, and so that the states can be responsive to the crisis. But as we all know that these are some of the states which are most affected by the pandemic, but there is no mention of what will happen to the common students, the students of the marginalized workers, or the migrant workers and the other workers, what will happen to them. There's no specific programs, nothing mentioned about this group. However, if we look at the other sections, then we find that it talks of the weaknesses of our education system, but it traces the deficiency in later school years to weak or early childhood education. So it says that if there is weak or there is no early childhood education, so they don't do well in the formal schooling. So this is obviously, we all know, is a very faulty observation, because our school system is fraught with many other deficiencies which results in non-learning of the students. And of course, it can only be understood what goes wrong in the school system, why the children do not learn, only through some micro level analysis. Because it is not that they learn only in the school. There are many socio-economic and socio-cultural factors, social situational factors, which are also responsible for non-learning. Number 3, it also talks of 5 set of factors that impair the school education system in India. First, neglected focus of education in early years, inefficient deployment of teachers in elementary schools, insufficient subject teachers, secondary level, weak teacher preparation, teacher recruitment is non-transparent, weak incentives for promotion, leading to motivation of the lower motivation of the teacher, absence of continuous and effective remediation, gap between management and evaluation system, and finally, they are stressing upon the measuring of tracking the learnings in schools over is very weak, and supervision and monitoring is not there because there is lack of skilled administrative, academic, and finance staff. So in a way, they are the World Bank idea is to train these people how to monitor, how to measure, how to keep track of education, and how to measure and write and fill up forms for a better management system. So fourthly, they are to overcome this problem, they are suggesting result-based financing to create performance culture and to be delivered through private sector. This is very, other fears. Like when they are talking about incentivizing states, incentivizing districts for better performance or better education, they are trying to impress upon us, impose upon the people of India that government is no good. That it's only the private sector which can perform. And next, they are also talking of flexible financing depending on the state's performance based on data. So, like it will, all the management and everything will be under the control of World Bank, and there is, there is too much emphasis upon management and data as if management and data are responsible for all the evils in our education system. So there are actually, we all know, whosoever is associated with school education, we know that there are reasons which are not addressed, because of which our system of education is today, and especially the government school system, in such a bad shape. They are, and maybe these mechanical measures, DPP and SSA to start with, and even now the STARS program are trying to impress upon the government of India to start with some blanket measures in the most mechanical manner. And these are, even when we see that DPP, when we talk of DPP and SSA, when some things are introduced, some reforms are introduced, even though those were done in a very half-hearted manner. For example, they never touched at the core issue. For example, DPP stressed upon joyful learning, but there was no provision for teaching learning materials in the school. Similarly, in SSA, of course, under SSA, buildings, hotels, and drinking water, toilet facilities, all these things are improved. But the lack of adequate number of teachers, lack of non-availability of subject teachers, and engagement of teachers in non-education or other activities. So there's lack of play equipment, lack of laboratory, nothing. All these things are never taken into consideration. Then it also talks of continuous comprehensive evaluation, which actually failed in the government system because of several reasons. And at least there are three fatalistic consequences of this continuous comprehensive evaluation. One is that in government schools, there are, if two teachers or a working teacher has to manage 5 classes, it is just not possible to do any justice to such kind of evaluation. So it does not make any sense. And secondly, these evaluations are based on tests or unit tests of 10 minutes or 15 minutes at best. So students are not used to giving long tests. And when they go up to class 10 and they really feel difficult, it's very difficult for them to sit for 10 hours and write. And whereas we find that the private schools, they are, apart from this unit test, they are continuing with the annual test, and which prepares the students better. And we, after these introductions of this continuous comprehensive evaluation, we see a lot of students fleeing to the private schools, low cost, low grade private schools, because they hold exams and because the students are better prepared for the final exam to sit for 3 years. So this is a single, example. There are ample examples one can give. Then it talks of ICT in the classroom and blended learning, formative assessment. Now everybody knows the situation of electricity in our rural areas particularly, and whether a computer is unthinkable, not even in the secondary school. So in the name of governance system, it is really, it's really strange, then it's very contradictory. When they are talking of strengthening skills, they're at the same time, they're talking of alternate models of service delivery. They're talking of partnering the government partner with non-state actors to the extent that it also suggested to work on a model of the private provider taking over the complete school operation and management of or outsourcing specific service model. Just one can imagine taking complete control of school operations and management. So this is all about the STARS. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that if STARS project is formulated when there was no pandemic, the pandemic has created an extreme kind of unprecedented crisis in the education in the country, and which was already in crisis in many different ways, especially the government school system. Now, the extent of damage of government school system is indeed unfathomable during this period. The school closure for last 4 months devastated economy after the poor and the middle classes in most adverse manner, and more importantly, the speedy digital divide between the rich and the poor students, on top of already existing disparities in access
to electricity and device and the internet, education is faced with much newer challenges. So under these circumstances, if STAR project is allowed to be operational, then India is sure for further destruction of our system, and a huge number of children who are already out of children will already be only added by those which will be now after the COVID pandemic will be left out of the system. So World Bank flags poverty and economic and social disparity instead, but no specific measures you will find in the document for to alleviate this condition. Moreover, the result-based financing will not help most of the government schools where the results of students are not always dependent upon what is being taught within the classroom. It needs a different kind of ecosystem and there are many other issues which are to be reckoned with to strengthen our own education system. So I would repeat what Professor Sadgopal has mentioned in the beginning of the webinar series that education in India must be built upon ethos of the Constitution of India, which means that education must be directed to build citizenship for a democratic, socialist, secular, egalitarian, and just society. And also that guarantees equality and non-discrimination against any citizen on grounds of religion, race, class, sex, etc. So this will be possible only and only if the students and teachers are allowed freedom to think and express themselves freely in a democratic setup. Nothing good can come out of a rigid and mechanical system dominated by outcome, competition, and regimentation of mind, as reflected in the World Bank STARS project. This will entail subjugation to a management system that will make both the systems and the teachers focus on numbers and marks and filling up data sets for record. Hardly any time and space will be left for thinking and reflecting upon one's own life and larger social and societal concerns. The use of ICT in classroom or blended learning and formative assessment will further likely to bring the children away from the existing reality. So now the question is, does for less than 15% contribution of the World Bank to the entire project in the 6 states, should the country allow World Bank to intervene the structure, training, and governance of the entire system of school and early childhood care education to class 12? So, and that too, privatize, commercialize, corporatize the system. Instead, Government of India must take initiative to strengthening our schools and free and compulsory system of public education as demanded by the Constitution of the country. So let's say that COVID-19 scenario has also laid bare the actual realities of the deprived section of our population. Maybe we can take this opportunity to reimagine our education system and try to build upon our evolved constitution. Thank you very much.
ज्योति जी, ज्योति जी
हेलो।
हाँ ज्योति जी, आप इसका हिंदी अनुवाद संक्षेप में बता दीजिए।
जी, पहले तो गुड इवनिंग एंड जय भीम टू ऑल द पैनलिस्ट्स एंड थैंक यू फॉर दैट टॉक. Sir, honestly, I'll tell you that there were a lot of voice cracks and I wasn't really able to, hear the entire speech. It was cracking. So I wasn't able to actually keep the track of a lot of the points. So if I comment, I may miss a lot of points. So I basically want to ask, is the Hindi translation right now required, or there are like people who really want it? Otherwise, we can skip this and go to the next speaker.
actually we cannot really decipher, because there are
हाँ,
people who are also on the Facebook, whether it is required or
okay,
not required.
okay, okay.
See, I would
So,
say that
hmm.
at least say whatever in case you could note down.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
I
it will
can
not
sum
be
up
complete.
in my own way. Yeah, yeah. It may not be complete. So just excuse me on that. And if anybody wants to add anything, please feel free. So ये जो पूरी चर्चा है, ये AIFRTE की जो संस्था है, इस पे स्टार्स का जो वर्ल्ड बैंक का प्रोजेक्ट है, इसमें क्या प्रावधान है और इसके क्या प्रोज एंड कॉन्स या इसके क्या परिणाम हो सकते हैं, इस पे प्रोफेसर इंद्रानी दत्ता ने पूरी की पूरी एक टिप्पणी की है। अब इसमें काफी मुद्दे हैं, जैसा उन्होंने कहा कि जैसे इस प्रोग्राम के पहले चरण में कई वक्ताओं ने ये कहा था कि इसका ज्यादातर जो परिणाम आने वाला है वो भारत के पब्लिक स्कूल सिस्टम के लिए काफी हानिकारक साबित होने वाला है। तो इसमें जो भी प्रावधान है, अब इसमें महत्वपूर्ण बातें कुछ ये हैं कि पूरा का पूरा जो इसमें गाइडलाइन या निर्देश दिए गए हैं, वो गुणवत्ता और व्यवस्थापन पे बहुत ज्यादा जोर देते हैं। तो इसमें अब धोखे क्या हो सकते हैं? तो पहली बात तो ये है कि इन लोगों ने कुछ जो निर्देश दिए हैं, उसमें उनका ये कहना है कि लर्निंग का प्रोसेस यानी शिक्षण की जो प्रोसेस है, उसमें कुछ इसमें त्रुटियां रह गई हैं। तो इसको फिर करेक्ट करने के उन्होंने जो मेजर्स बताए गए हैं, अब इसमें उन्होंने जो भी उपाय इसके दिए हैं, इसमें ये जो मार्जिनलाइज्ड सोसाइटी का वर्ग है, जैसे मजदूर वर्ग या गरीब या जो पॉवर्टी जो सफर करते हैं, वो जो पूरा का पूरा एक गरीब तबका या मजदूर वर्ग का तबका है, तो ये इससे वंचित ही रह जाने वाला है। उनके लिए कोई प्रावधान या कोई सुविधाएं या उनका कोई भी मेंशन इसमें नहीं है। फिर इसका जो दूसरा एक उन्होंने भार दिया है, वो शिक्षकों की मूल्यांकन पद्धति पे बहुत ज्यादा उन्होंने जोर दिया है। तो इसका अगर हम ढांचा देखें पूरे के पूरे इस प्रोजेक्ट का, तो उसमें दो जो बहुत डेट्रीमेंटल या बहुत जो हानिकारक बातें हैं, वो पहली ये कि शिक्षण प्रक्रिया का पूरा निजीकरण, प्राइवेट सेक्टर का इसमें मतलब जैसे पूरा एक कैपिटलिस्ट या पूंजीवादी या सामंतीवादी जो अर्थव्यवस्था है, उसकी गिरफ्त में पूरा का पूरा ये शिक्षण व्यवस्था ये आने वाली है। और दूसरा ये कि इनके जो निरीक्षण, परीक्षण और व्यवस्थापन के जो निर्देशांक हैं, तो इनमें भी जो लाभार्थी होंगे, ये एक कैपिटलिस्ट या पूंजीवादी निजी क्षेत्र के ही लाभार्थी होंगे। और एक उसे भी ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण बात यह है कि ये संवैधानिक ढांचे को पूरी तरह चुनौती देने वाला एक प्रोजेक्ट है। तो संविधान में जो हमारे मार्गदर्शक तत्व हैं कि लोकतांत्रिक या धर्मनिरपेक्ष और स्वतंत्रतावादी और समाजवादी जो समाज का ढांचा या शिक्षण संस्था का ढांचा होना चाहिए, तो इसी को छेद देने वाला या मात देने वाला ये प्रोजेक्ट साबित होता है। तो इसलिए ये बहुत व्यवहारिक या मूल्यमापक नहीं है और प्रासंगिक नहीं है। तो इस तरह से मैं इसको समअप कर पाई हूँ। अगर किसी पैनलिस्ट को कुछ ऐड करना हो हिंदी में तो कर सकते हैं।
इंद्रानी, क्या आप कुछ जोड़ना चाहती हैं? डू यू वांट टू ऐड समथिंग? बहुत अर्जेंट कुछ छूटा हो अगर? Indrani, am I audible to you?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry because my my Hindi is very bad. If I say, maybe I will make more mistakes than.
There is already a movement against Shuddh Hindi. Okay, so don't worry.
नहीं, एक्चुअली मैं कुछ तो बोल सकती हूँ, लेकिन मेरा हिंदी बहुत खराब है।
बहुत अच्छा है।
तो कोई एक तो बात है कि हम लोग जो अभी जा रहे हैं जिस दिशा में, इस दिशा में हम लोग का कोई देयर इज नो स्पेस, कोई स्पेस नहीं है जिसमें हम लोग खुद को प्रकाश कर सकते हैं, खुद को इंडिपेंडेंट थिंकिंग कर सकते हैं, और कुछ तो हम लोग भारत के जो नीड है, जो रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, उसी को ना हम लोग फुलफिल कर सकेंगे, लेकिन खाली हम लोग एक जैसे मैकेनिकल एक व्यवस्था का एक कॉग जैसा हम लोग बन जाएंगे चिल्ड्रन। आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट दे वांट। जैसे उन लोग को मानना है कि ये भारत का यदि खुद हम लोग इफ वी स्टार्ट, हम खुद चिंता कर नो, आई थिंक आई शुड नॉट ट्राई इट। सॉरी, आई एम वेरी सॉरी।
No, I mean, it was really good, I must say. It was really good. I think we heard you for the first time in Hindi, and it was really good, I must say.
Thank you. Next time I will try. Thank you.
So good. I think we now move on to the second presentation. We will take the questions at the end for both the panelists together. हम लोग जो जितने भी प्रश्न हैं वो इकट्ठे लेंगे बाद में दोनों ही स्पीकर्स के बारे में, और अगली बार कोशिश करेंगे कि और बेहतर इंतजाम हो सके कम से कम 2 भाषाओं में. And now over to Professor Hargopal. Yeah. Professor Hargopal?
Yeah. I'm here.
So, I mean, you can see if you can make yours bilingual to the extent possible. Otherwise, Jyoti is
bilingual.
There. No, that's fine. Otherwise, Jyoti is there, of course.
I don't.
Yeah.
Dr. Hargopal has to unmute his mic.
No, he was audible somehow. I think his voice went up. Unmute yourself. I think you've muted yourself.
Yeah, it is unmuted.
Yeah. You're audible.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, friends. Indrani Dattaji, of course, she focused more on the STARS program and its details, and trying to relate how the crisis will be further deepened because of its intervention in our school education and perhaps education system in general. My focus would be not necessarily on STARS, because already she explained all the details, what exactly consists of the STARS program and all the details. And in the last intervention, Anil Sadgopal and Ramesh Patnaik have also explained the comparison. Anil did a comparison between the constitutional mandate and the World Bank mandate, and how the World Bank mandate is completely different and drifts from the very vision that the Constitution of India envisages for the type of country, the type of society we wanted to build. Then perhaps I'll be trying to contextualize that how the World Bank entered into the Indian economy, Indian politics, and how it has completely taken away the larger freedoms of a nation state to plan its own program. That they have done not only in India, they have done in most of the parts of the world. Now, I think why India had to go to World Bank, how the World Bank came to influence the policies is my first part of the lecture. And then later, second part, I'll try to see that by intervention, what India or what damage that it has done to India's children and India's future in general. If you look at the freedom struggle, Constitution being the product of the freedom struggle, it resonates the aspirations of the people, the type of promise we made. And most of the anti-colonial struggles promised a more an egalitarian society. What Anil has said about the Constitution, it promised a more an egalitarian society. I don't think that in the freedom struggle at any point of time, any political group had ever said that once we get freedom, we'll build a capitalist society. I don't think that was the slogan at all. The slogan was for certain equality, for certain justice, for certain change, And we wanted to build what the preamble of the Constitution, envisages, that what type of society we wanted to build. But the Nehruvian model definitely wanted the state to intervene and intervene in the market forces, regulate the market forces, and the state should have a critical role in molding the society. I mean, that perhaps was the Nehruvian vision. Market forces were lying low because the market wanted definitely state intervention to build the infrastructure, to build the raw certain capital goods. That therefore the intervention of the state was there. And gradually the market forces were picking up from whatever the planned model was trying to build. I think one of our major failures, both of the freedom struggle and the post-colonial India, is to bring agrarian reforms. If we had brought major agrarian reforms in the rural structure, if we had created a more egalitarian structure, then I think politics of India would have been qualitatively different. But we have completely left the entire feudal structure, rural feudal structure, almost intact. We in the Planning Commission or Nehruvian model did not think of land reform. Land reforms came onto the agenda in 1970-71. Mrs. Gandhi talked of the land reform, but till then, I think independent India did not talk about the land reforms. And therefore, the feudal economic structure, feudal ideology, remained intact. And one of the reasons why Indian economy was not moving forward, and we were struck with the 2.5% rate of growth, what is called Hindu rate of growth. The way you have to build, even if you want to build the capital, any developed country, today you talk of any developed country, the first they have built the capital are from the agrarian surplus. So it is the agriculture that builds the surplus. That's the experience of China. So the surplus comes, and even if you want capital, capital has to come from agrarian surplus. I think this is very important. Since we failed on agrarian front, the Indian economy was not moving forward. But by late 60s or by mid 60s, the unrest started growing in the rural system. And you can see between 67 and 71, there was so much of unrest in India that we had secessionist movements, we had autonomy movements, we had identity movements, we have regional movements, sub-regional movements. You can see unrest. What does this unrest indicate? It indicates that somewhere the sections of the society to whom we have promised a better life, a more fair and just life, were largely disappointed. And the inequalities were already growing, and with the result, we were struck. Mrs. Gandhi was facing this crisis, and she is a product of this particular crisis. And therefore, she thought that she will go for, and she has, in fact, wanted the state to enter into much more critical, way. And of course, she acquired a lot of power, and emergency came as one of the, a break in the system. Democratic structures were in a crisis. Both the demand from the rich class, from the powerful classes, from the feudal classes for more share in the wealth, and the poorer sections and the marginal sections, as their consciousness was growing, there was a tremendous pressure on the Indian state, and she was not able to balance. And that failure led to what we call the emergency during 1970. But given the pluralistic structure, given the heterogeneous, highly complex society, the emergency could not last, and she lost the election 77. Janata Party came to power, and it was a multi-class coalition. It could not survive for long, although it came with a massive mandate: universal education, adult literacy. They did talk about education as one of the important inputs. But anyway, it didn't last long. And 1980s, Mrs. Gandhi comes back. And 1971 Mrs. Gandhi and 1981 Mrs. Gandhi are so different that 1971 Mrs. Gandhi, abolition of poverty, monopoly restrict to trade practices, nationalization of banks, land reform. She was talking of those about the agenda that she was talking about in 1970, and she started unity and integrity of India, Ekta and Akhandata. And of course, by then, the unrest reached a point and where the Prime Minister herself, had to, sacrifice her life. And 1983 or 84, what has happened? And when by the time when Mrs. Gandhi takes over, earlier she recognized that it was the problem of the agrarian reforms or the economic reforms. But 1980, Mrs. Gandhi started talking unity and integrity, but she knew that it's a capital, needed, and we need a capital deficit. For the first time in the 80s, we go to the international financial agencies. Till the end of the fourth five plan, what today Narendra Modi calls Atmanirbharta, if you look at the fourth plan document, in fact, there is a very strong plea for the self-sufficiency of India by the end of the fourth five plan. But when the fourth five plan talked about the self-sufficiency, I understand one of the representatives of America met Mrs. Gandhi, showed the planning commission document, fourth plan document, and he said that if you completely want self-sufficient India, then why are you taking aid? Better you stop now. Then Mrs. Gandhi had to rethink, and one of the persons who drafted the fourth plan told me when in a personal account that she called and he said slightly change this paragraph of total independence. And then of course he said that in an interdependent world, no nation can be independent. That's how the fourth plan document. So when already the global capital started interfering by the fourth five plan. And when Rajiv Gandhi took over, by then, since we went already to the global, system or global financial agencies, his entire vision was techno-managerial. It was nothing to do with the politics in a real sense, politics as a creative intervention of transforming the society. But he thought that it is a capital deficit society, it's a technology deficient society, and he thought that by opening the market to the global capital, we will be able to really, push the economy forward. And that egalitarian vision that the Constitution promised to the people of India gradually started being watered down. This is what exactly happened. When we went to the World Bank, the World Bank or the IMF, all these international financial agencies, they give a loan. They give definitely massive loans to the developing countries. But all the loan, it is not like a lender giving the money, it comes with conditionalities. Conditionalities are always pro-capital. Societies which were building egalitarian societies, which were not for the capital, but pro-people, not pro-capital, I think the World Bank has definitely forced these nations to shift the focus from the egalitarian, participative, democratic, equitable society. From that, marginally. But there are many big things. There is a lot of rhetoric in these documents. But finally, when you see the whole, system, that you obviously think that the system is completely started drifting from the earlier vision. But the tragedy is that in 1980s, when the economy started doing a little better, because the rate of growth shifted from World Bank, from the 2.5% rate of growth, it picked up to 5.6%. So everybody was happy that the economy was picking up. when economy was picking up, 1980s was supposed to be a fairly favorable, condition. Agriculture did better. Industrial unrest was not there. There was no war in 1980s. But you find that economy by the end of the 80s, you find that economy completely in doldrums, a deep crisis. Yeah, can I continue? Because, hello?
Yes, yes, carry.
I can continue?
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, because the visual has gone, but I'll continue. So 1980s, at the end of 1980s, we were told that the economy is in a deep crisis. Suddenly thought that the only way that the economy can pick up, because by then what has happened, when you open the market for technology and capital, when the capital and technology came, that our exports have fallen, our imports have gone up enormously. With the result, we landed in the foreign exchange crisis, and Manmohan Singh and Narasimha Rao, they told the nation that there is no alternative except to structural adjustment and opening the market. This is the beginning of the entry of capital into all sectors of Indian economy, including education and health. Education, which, we started with Kothari Commission and education, which was talking of the common school system, education for all the children, to the new education policy. 1983, we take a loan from the International Financial Agency. 1985 comes a new education policy. And in the new education policy, for the first time, the dual systems were introduced. It's a quality education to certain children, Navodaya schools. You can see now how education started getting fragmented. Otherwise, my generation, Anil's generation, or Jagmohan Singh's generation, we have gone to the common school. I mean, there are hardly any private schools in 1960s. But by the time you come to 80s, we talk of the bit of private participation, but we talk of the education not for all the children. That entire vision of the Kothari Commission, was diluted by the 1985 education policy. Although 85 policy was put for a debate, 2 years it was debated, but I think the education started getting into the market processes. And by the 90s, when you completely opened up the market, the World Bank was definitely interested in education. The reason why they are interested in education is that by the time we come to 1990s, education has become a capital. Education has become technology. Education has become a marketable commodity. I think Alvin Toffler, when he writes The Power Shift, he says knowledge, wealth, and power, they are interchangeable. If you have knowledge, you can get power and wealth. If you have wealth, power and knowledge. So the interconnection between the power, knowledge, and the wealth started building up very fast. And by then, the inequalities have grown to a point. The latest studies show that 20% of Indians almost command 73% of the income or of the wealth of the year. And with the result, there is a 20% Indians who have better incomes now, who can affordable education in the private schools. This 20%, because they have 73% of the wealth, the rest of the 80% who get hardly 15 to 20%, or entire agricultural sector share is 11%. So now with the result, now you can see clear-cut division between the better off and the worse off, between the marginalized and those who benefited. And 20% of India's population is equivalent to American population. So the World Bank and the international agencies saw a huge market in education. And with the result, the private capital, they went on encouraging private capital, and the World Bank went on, the whole DPEP scheme, they started entering into policy making. And they started dictating the policy priorities. And India lost its maneuverability to formulate its own policies. And now we can see that how Sam Petroda enters into the education system, how people started talking about the the education, the government education, public institutions, and the whole debate, 90s and 2000, the debate is between the private schools and the public institutions. Obviously, when the better off sections go to the private schools, they do take, parents are more educated, parents can afford, the children have better facilities, and and they can pay far better fee. And what has happened to my school where I studied? I'm a product of a village school. I studied my high school in my school. I keep on telling that. And my school trained me. And I survived in the system. I am a rural child from a lower middle class background. Now it's not possible. When I go back to my own school, it has been completely destroyed. Now no child studying in my village, if the present education policy continues, can ever hope to become to a central university professor in the next 100 years. I mean, that's what we have done to the education system at the grassroots. So entire rural educational structure and all the educational institutions, because the agrarian economies also have completely fallen. And the share of agriculture completely has come down to from 55% in 1950s, 60s to 11.5%, and hardly have any incomes. And they can't send their children to the private schools, and whatever government schools were there, those schools really started collapsing. In fact, one of the reasons for the farmer suicide, I mean, at least when we were doing a study, one of the farmers who committed suicide, his child was studying in the intermediate, and she was studying in one of these corporate colleges. And the girl came home for the holidays, and she was to go next day for second year of intermediate. And she said 25,000 rupees were required. Father couldn't raise the loan. He committed suicide. So the agricultural sector, which on the one hand was losing its income, on the other hand, the quality education started falling. I think this created such a major crisis. Now, in the DPEP program has also destroyed the entire, the educational program at the grassroots, the multi-grade system. I mean, one teacher, I still remember that in my school, and we had a drill teacher, we had a drawing teacher, we had a class teacher, we had a subject teacher. And this is what 1950s, 60s. And today, you started the three batches of children sit in the same room, and the one teacher teaching. What is this absolute foolish way of teaching the children? But this what the DPEP has done, because the World Bank has given a loan, and the World Bank said you have to go for the multi-grade system, and India, without even applying its mind that what would be its implication and impact on the learning system of the child, we have never studied. And now the World Bank talks about the learning crisis. They talk about the learning crisis. They brought a document in 2017. They said the learning crisis. What is the learning crisis? When you make, when you completely damage the school system, and when you talk of the learning crisis, they don't talk of institutional crisis. They talk of only learning crisis. And therefore, they talk of the learning outcomes. I mean, this entire language, learning outcome depends upon the learning process. And if you have not taken care of the learning process, how can you have the learning outcomes? So you talk from the end product, you don't talk about from the beginning. And then you do not restructure the entire school in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the facilities, in terms of the teachers, in terms of the curriculum. You just don't talk about that. And then you talk, now today we have to see the outcome because we have invested something. Okay. Now again, as the DPEP program, now the STARS program. Indrani ji explained what the STARS program does. This STARS program, again, is a major intervention of the World Bank. They are contributing such a marginal pittance to the total expenditure. You give just 1.5% or 15% of the total budget expenditure, and then you dictate the policy. And the
we'll wait for a couple of seconds if he has joined. Hello, Professor Hargopal.
Yeah, wait little bit, that's all.
Yeah. We'll just wait for a while.
എനിക്ക് ആ മുട്ടായി ഒരെണ്ണം കൊടുക്കാം ഗ്യാസ് മുട്ടായി
Yeah.
ഇത്രേ ഉള്ള
I muted it. Okay.
Yeah. You were audible for a while. You can start, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
are audible.
have muted it. I'm
You are
audible.
Yeah, you are
Am
audible.
I,
You are audible.
so should I stop?
I mean,
Hello?
you can at least you can give some concluding observations and
Yeah.
how do we resist? I mean, that's a crucial question.
Yes. Now, I think the experience of the last 1 decade in AFRTE, where I have also had an opportunity of going from Kanyakumari to Nagaland, the different parts of the state in Karnataka and some parts of the Uttar Pradesh, wherever I have gone, I think the general parents from the lower middle and the poorer classes would like to have quality education for their children, but they can't afford. But this is the crisis. Now the AFRTE has the has the concern and the commitment that unless the education system becomes accessible, quality education becomes accessible to the poor people. Poor people are waiting for a quality education for the first time, perhaps in India's history. The marginalized sections and the marginalized parents would like to have quality education for their children. The poorest, perhaps, also want their children to be educated because they know that education provides social mobility. Education provides a mobility for their children. I mean, that is, the life system starts changing. So there is a great aspiration. And they do not perhaps understand the causes of the crisis, but they understand the crisis. I think AFRT's effort has been to explain the causes and ensure that gradually people develop what Paulo Freire says, critical consciousness. And if we can build a strong public opinion, the history opens an ample opportunity for educational movement. I think we have to enter through this space and mobilize the public opinion and go, to the larger sections of the society, whatever way that is possible, and mobilize India's public opinion for education, which was perhaps the philosophy and ideology of the Constitution of India. I think that mandate, if we keep and explain to them the larger neoliberal, of course, we need language, we need symbols, we have to know the local, people, their psychology. All this is needed. But if the AFRT can make an effort, I'm sure that there is an opportunity for us to build a very powerful movement historically and change India's course of development. Yeah, because I'm through.
ओके, ज्योति जी,
जी
आप जरा हिंदी में थोड़ा समरी बता दें।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, जी जी जी। प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल, धन्यवाद विवरण के लिए। अब प्रोफेसर हरगोपाल जी ने जो विवरण दिया या जो एक्सप्लेनेशन दिया है, तो उसकी मैं शुरुआत करती हूँ। अब जैसे कि प्रोफेसर इंद्रानी जी ने और पहले ये चरण में जो वक्ता थे उन्होंने ये पहले ही संक्षेप में बता दिया था कि ये वर्ल्ड बैंक प्रोजेक्ट क्या है या स्टार्स प्रोजेक्ट क्या है। तो उसके डिटेल्स में ना जाते हुए उन्होंने जो है थोड़ा इसकी जो है एक पृष्ठभूमि देने का एक प्रयास किया है कि मूलतः ये वर्ल्ड बैंक का जो फाइनेंस या इसकी आर्थिक सहायता लेने की भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था में जरूरत क्यों आ पड़ी। तो इसकी शुरुआत अगर हम जो है एक प्री इंडिपेंडेंस पीरियड से करें, तो इसमें हम ये देख सकते हैं कि प्रथम प्रधानमंत्री जो पंडित नेहरू थे, तो उन्होंने जिस व्यवस्था का निर्माण या शुरुआत की थी, अब हालांकि उसका विजन या उसका जो प्रयोजन यही था कि एक समानतावादी व्यवस्था निर्माण की जाए, लेकिन हुआ उसमें ऐसा कि उसमें एक त्रुटि के तौर पर ये बात उभरी कि कृषि या भूमि निर्भर जो सुधार या क्रांतियां हैं या वो जो व्यवस्था है, तो उसमें भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था या समाज व्यवस्था कम पड़ जाने की वजह से ये हुआ कि लेट 60s तक आते आते, मतलब 60 के दशक तक आते आते कई सारे ये जो उपेक्षित या मजदूर या किसानों का जो एक तबका था, उसमें काफी अनरेस्ट या एक आंदोलन या क्रांतियां शुरू हो गई। फिर आया मिसेस इंदिरा गांधी पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री का दौर, तो उसमें आपातकाल वगैरह उससे होकर दूसरी बार जब 1981 में प्रधानमंत्री इंदिरा गांधी वापस आ गई, तो उन्होंने ये जो गरीबी हटाओ योजना और काफी सारी मतलब समानतावादी योजनाओं की और समाज रचना की बात हुई। और उसमें एक महत्वपूर्ण बात ये थी कि जो चौथा चरण, फोर्थ प्लान था जिसकी प्रोफेसर साहब ने बात की, तो उसमें वही आत्मनिर्भरता जो आज हम अक्सर सुनते हैं, तो उसकी बात की गई थी। उसके बाद वो दौर आया पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री मिस्टर राजीव गांधी का, तो उनका जो एक पूरा केंद्र था या एक विचारों का जो परिपेक्ष था, वो काफी व्यवस्थापकीय और तांत्रिक था। तो उन्होंने जो है उस वक्त की भारतीय अर्थव्यवस्था को थोड़ा सा ब्रॉड करना चाहा या खोलना चाहा, जिसकी वजह से हुआ ये कि समानतावादी मूल्यों को नीचे ढकेला गया और वापस से एक पूंजीवादी या सामंतीवादी जो व्यवस्था है वो उभर कर आ गई। और इसी के चलते फिर वर्ल्ड बैंक या बाकी फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस ने जो इनसे जो हमने कर्जे लिए, उनसे बतौर शर्त के काफी चीजें हम पर वापस से ला दी गई। फिर 80 के दशक में ये हुआ कि वही पूंजीवादी और जो तांत्रिक अर्थव्यवस्था थी उसने काफी जोर पकड़ लिया था। उसके चलते हुआ ये कि हमारा आयात जो है उसका प्रमाण बहुत बढ़ गया और निर्यात का प्रमाण काफी कम हो गया। तो इसके चलते कोठारी कमीशन के तहत से 1983 में वापस एक कर्जा लिया गया, जिसकी परिणति इसमें हुई कि 1985 में एक नई जो है शिक्षण नीति आई, एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई, जिसमें नवोदया स्कूल्स वगैरह की तरह की हमने बातें देखी। तो अब इसमें ये हो चुका था कि पूरी की पूरी जो शिक्षण की व्यवस्था है उसका एक तरह से फ्रेगमेंटेशन या विखंडन प्रक्रिया शुरू हो गई। 90 के दशक में आते आते ये आलम हो गया था कि शिक्षण व्यवस्था एक जिसे कमोडिटी कह सकते हैं, एक बिकाऊ बिल्कुल ट्रेड की तरह से हो गया था। तो इसमें ये हुआ कि 20% जो आबादी है तो उनके पास 73% जो है इनकम उनके पास संगठित हो गई थी। मतलब इस तरह से संपत्ति का डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हो गया था कि जो 80% जो वर्ग था, जिसे हम मार्जिनलाइज्ड या मजदूर, किसान या जो भी गरीब तबका कह सकते हैं, तो वो एक बड़ी तादाद में शिक्षण सुविधाओं से उपेक्षित रह गया। तो इसके चलते हमें वर्ल्ड बैंक या इंटरनेशनल मार्केट से अर्थार्जन या उनसे कह सकते हैं एक तरह से वापस कर्जा लेना पड़ा, जिसका परिणाम ये आया कि नीति निर्माण और मतलब शिक्षण की नीति निर्माण और रचना में बहुत सा प्रभाव इन इंटरनेशनल इकोनॉमी या उन मार्केट का या उन ताकतों का रहा। तो इसमें ये हुआ कि ग्रामीण या देहाती जो शिक्षण व्यवस्था है वो पूरी तरह से ध्वस्त हो गई थी। तो रूरल एजुकेशन सिस्टम जो है वो किसी भी तरह से गुणवत्तात्मक या क्वालिटेटिव बचा ही नहीं। अब इसके चलते 2017 में हमने ये एक निर्देश किया कि शिक्षण व्यवस्था में एक भारी त्रुटि आ गई है, लर्निंग क्राइसिस जिसे कहा जा सकता है। तो इसमें भी ये हुआ कि हम शिक्षण व्यवस्था की त्रुटियों की तो बात कर रहे थे, लेकिन एक व्यवस्थापकीय या सामाजिक जो उसमें ढांचा है, उसका उसमें जो योगदान रहा इस परिस्थिति के निर्माण करने में, उसे पूरी तरह से निग्लेक्ट किया गया या उसे नजरअंदाज किया गया। इसमें काफी सारे मतलब फिर अभ्यासक्रम या पायाभूत सुविधाएं, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जिसे हम कह सकते हैं, तो इसमें भी काफी निर्देश करने की आवश्यकता थी जो हुआ नहीं। तो अब जो है इसको इस तरह से समअप किया जा सकता है कि इन्होंने प्रोफेसर साहब ने कहा कि कन्याकुमारी से नागालैंड तक इनका ये ऑब्जर्वेशन या इनका ये मतलब ऑब्जर्वेशन रहा है कि जो दुर्लक्षित या उपेक्षित तबका है, यहाँ तक कि इवन लोअर मिडिल क्लास जिसे कह सकते हैं, मध्यम वर्ग, उनको ये जरूरी है और वो चाहते ही भी हैं कि उनको गुणवत्तात्मक एक शिक्षण उनके बच्चों को मिले, लेकिन दुर्भाग्य से वो उनके लिए अफोर्डेबल नहीं बचा है। तो ये AIRFTE का ये प्रतिबद्धता है और ये उनका कमिटमेंट होना चाहिए और है कि जहां तक हो सके हमें समाज के बीच में जाके लोकाभिमुख कार्यक्रमों का आयोजन करके एक पब्लिक सेंटिमेंट या लोक मत बनाना होगा, जिससे उन्हें इन प्रावधानों की जानकारी देनी होगी, एक अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम जिसे हम कह सकते हैं। और इसी से जो है इस पूरे स्टार प्रोजेक्ट के खिलाफ हम एक आंदोलन खड़ा कर सकते हैं और जनमानस में जागरूकता पैदा कर सकते हैं। धन्यवाद। मैं यहाँ रुकूंगी, किसी को कुछ अगर टिप्पणी करनी हो तो कर सकते हैं।
Thank you, Jyoti ji, for
Thank you.
a very good translation of Hargopal's presentation. Professor Hargopal, would you like to add anything that you think very significant lost out?
No, I think
she covered.
Yeah. She covered everything. I mean, I think it was a beautiful translation.
So thanks to her once again.
Thank you, sir.
She captured it very well.
Yeah, it was unfathomable though, but humble effort. Thank you.
Okay. I think I really request now everyone to start raising their questions. If they have logged in through Facebook Live or YouTube Live, or if they are logged in through Zoom, they should start writing their questions, and our team will take up those questions, read out those questions to the panelists, and they will respond. In the meantime, हमारे श्रोता लोगों से गुजारिश है कि वो अपने या अपने सवाल फेसबुक पे लिखें, और वो जो लोग जूम के थ्रू लॉग इन हैं वो लोग भी या अपना हैंड रेज करें या अपने सवाल लिखें। हमारी टीम उनको नोट करेगी और वो सवाल स्पीकर्स के सामने रखे जाएंगे। और अगर आप अपनी बात लिख के भेजेंगे तो समय बचेगा, अगर बहुत ज़रूरी होगा तो आप लिख के भेजेंगे तो हम कोशिश करेंगे आपको सुनने की, अगर आप जूम प्लेटफॉर्म पे हैं तो। पर जब तक ये प्रक्रिया चले, मैं चाहूँगा कि हमारे चेयरपर्सन प्रोफेसर जगमोहन वो ज़रूर 2 शब्द आज की दोनों व्याख्यानों के बारे में रखें जब तक प्रश्नोत्तर का सिलसिला शुरू होता है। When we start, this process of taking up the questions.
Dr. Sir, there is already one question which has come up in Facebook.
No, we decided that we can, in case there are more, then we can take all that together. Yeah. So, Professor Gopal joined again. Okay. So, Professor Jagmohan, your quick observations, and Dr. Ramamurthy has raised his hand. So, you can enable him to speak later on. He may have difficulty in writing the chat box, through the chat box. But would you like to say something before we move on to the questions?
I just want to thank the both speakers that they have given an excellent analysis from both angles with a continuity historical perspective, and then bringing it to the program of action we have to plan for further studies. So I think I would like that we give more time to our guest speakers or those who want to discuss it. And because I'm just have to apology that we could not have it live on both the channels, that is the YouTube and the Facebook. It is on the Facebook, but it is recorded and the recording will be made available on the YouTube. But it is very encouraging that a lot of people have liked our this program on the Facebook. So I would actually, not spending much time, I would request you to ask for the questions first, and in the meantime, our team will be screening the Facebook questions and that could be shared.
Professor Jagmohan, with your kind permission, I also want to suggest that apart from the questions that are coming through Facebook, and Ramamurthy has already raised hand to speak from Zoom. Shashank, I think host will allow you to quickly speak out your question. My suggestion is that even the people in the organizing team, who are taking charge of the control room, they should also raise their questions quickly. So, Lokesh, will you start reading the questions, or Malige, or whoever is doing? Yeah? Let's present questions to the speakers and then let them respond.
Yeah, there are some questions which actually Lokesh has put in this one chat. The questions are: is the World Bank directly or indirectly involved in destroying primary education in India? If yes, then what is the Indian government doing in this matter? Then the second question will be: will privatization be forced on the poor, crushing all their dreams to get quality education? The third one is: when will the new education policy be implemented? Yeah, these are the three questions.
Okay, and then there is a question from Shashank. Read this question from Shashank.
Shashank wants to ask the question, but he doesn't know how to raise
he has
hand.
asked.
This question was from a Facebook user that I am forwarding it here. Will common school systems solve the issues of the poor and the marginalized section students? This was his question.
So this is an important question.
Can you? There are 4 questions altogether.
Yeah. Can you also take Ramamurthy's question? Just allow him to speak, Professor Jagmohan.
Yeah, his speaker is on.
Okay. राममूर्ति जी, can you raise your question? आप बोल सकते हैं. आप अपने आप को unmute कीजिए and speak.
नहीं, वो unmute.
नहीं, आप उनको allow कर दीजिए. He won't be able to.
Unmute कर रहा हूँ उनको, पहले unmuted थे.
एक और सवाल 5वां आया है, ये भी पढ़ दीजिए मल्लिके, लोकेश ने भेजा है।
हाँ, Mission Prerna like campaign executed in basic education need to be explained. How it have privatization agenda? How the Mission Prerna kind of campaigns have the privatization agenda within them is to be explained. Someone has asked this question. And
Ramurthy,
then one more question. Can you suggest some documents to understand the impact of DPEP program?
Right. So that's another question. So I think we have 7 questions so far.
Ramurthy
Yeah.
Ramurthy ji, can you speak now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening to everybody. My question is to Professor Hargopal sir. Which is that in terms of our process of strengthening our movement, how does he look at the role of teacher union to mobilizing public opinion and particularly to make aware of parents about the falsifiability of the private partner or private people to enhance the quality of education. That is one. And second is, this is much more critical and public. Is it really that on the basis of agrarian surplus that other nations have are able to raise their standard of economy, particularly if you look at America or Japan and other countries, or are we just giving this example in context of China? Do we have sufficient example apart from China to substantiate that with only surplus even out of agricultural sector, we can raise our overall economic.
Okay, I think we take up these questions now. So Professor Hargopal and Professor Indrani Datta, I think we have good questions. I will just respond to one. That's my job.
Not first.
Yeah, Professor Hargopal, I think we will now give you a chance to respond to some of these questions. But just one question I will respond. This is a question that I think Lokesh Shashank has forwarded from Facebook. Yes, we can share with you the STAR projects document. If you are interested, we will put it on the mailing list of the FRT. But in case... No, that is a separate question. I mean, recently there is another question. Somebody has asked about the STARS project document. So that STARS project document we will put on our email list later on, also on our website. But in case the person who has raised this question is not on our email list, he or she can write to us on aifrte.secretariat@gmail.com. aifrte.secretariat@gmail.com, and we will, provide the document. Okay, so over to Professor Hargopal. Professor Hargopal? In the meantime, can we then request Professor Indrani Datta to respond when he joins back?
Yeah. So the first question is what Indian government was doing for while it was primary education was being privatized. Actually, since the government of India also had the same idea as Dr. Hargopal has already mentioned, that for some sort of giving in to the world economy and some sort of responding to the economic needs in the way the government of the World Bank wanted. So actually it didn't do much because already the government system was slowly being eroded. I think Dr. Hargopal will be able to speak better in this thing because he was already relating how the whole education system was gradually had gone into the hands of private businesses. So Maybe that you will answer. Hello?
Hello.
Professor Hargopal.
Yeah.
Professor Indrani is responding, so you will respond after her. Okay.
So then one question was there, maybe because I used the word mission, how the mission will affect privatization. That is what I understood it to be. When something becomes a mission mode, I mean, as it happened in case of after DPP and SSA.
No, shall I answer the question? No, as I was narrating that my own experience.
Professor Hargopal, wait, I think let Professor Indrani finish.
Okay, so I thought that, I mean, my understanding of the mission is that, you know, since it has shifted to the some private players, it shifted from the Indian government's hands to others. You know, like it's just shifted. Mission means, you know, you are not, as I found in the meaning of the mission, is because you are shifting it. So we find that lot of activities were then outsourced, and then your whole system of education in India came under the influence of the forces which is outside of the country. So we are, in a sense, we are being remotely controlled by some outside agencies. So that is how the whole system of education, you know, like, and there are some components both in DPP and SSA, which were you know, like taking the outsourcing, and these were outsourced, and these were other players were engaged in that. So a lot of NGOs were engaged, lot of other, you know, like for instance, at the grassroots, some other organizations were incentivized to play a role in the school system. So this is how I think, I mean, this is how like it led to privatization, and at least the government came away from it. I think Dr. Hargopal will answer, you know, how it will crush the aspirations, because I mean, definitely with the STARS program, when the whole system is bound to go into the hands of the private players, so education will become too expensive. Although maybe they're talking of voucher system, they're talking of PPP mode and all that, but there are ample examples across the world. Studies have shown that PPP really did not work, and also voucher system did not really work. So definitely the aspirations of the poor will be crushed. I think that's for my that is what I wanted to know.
Professor Hargopal. Is he available? Professor Hargopal. I think he has lost connection.
And one more way, maybe till he comes in, I can also speak on when the NEP starts.
Yeah.
Actually, the new education policy 2019 has already started, because there are many instructions even without being acknowledged, without being announced, because there are many instructions which are coming to the higher education sector, that actually those were a part of the new education policy 19. I can see Hargopal, I think they can speak now.
Yes, Professor Hargopal. Today your network is creating some problems.
No, Vikas.
Yeah. You please.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Please go on. Please go on.
Yeah. Say, I was telling that one of the reasons why rural schools suffered is that as the children of
You are no longer audible.
It is his mic is muted. His mic is muted.
Your mic is muted, Professor Hargopal. You need to unmute yourself.
Vikas, I think you should be a little louder.
Professor Hargopal, you need to unmute yourself. Yeah,
I have unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a question.
So I am saying,
there's a question whether common education system will really solve the problem. So would you like to respond to that?
Yes.
Professor Hargopal, related to this, there is one more question. क्या किसी भी भारतीय सरकार के पास नीति और नियत का अभाव है कि वे एक समान शिक्षा प्रणाली को लागू नहीं करना चाहते? फिर ये कैसी खूबसूरती है भारतीय लोकतंत्र की? कृपया जवाब दें।
ये तो अब इसीलिए तो एजुकेशन मूवमेंट है ना। एजुकेशन मूवमेंट का सवाल ये है कि भारत का जो राजनीति है, भारत का जो नीति है, जो बदले हैं, वो बदल से जो नीति है उसको जो करेक्ट करना है वो पीपल्स मूवमेंट से होगा। कौन करेगा उसको? तो इसीलिए तो ऑल इंडिया फोरम फॉर राइट टू सेव एजुकेशन कमिटी इन कर्नाटका, the movement that people like Maliki are, all of us are struggling for that. So what all I am saying is that if you go and look at the rural schools, they suffered enormously, as Allahabad High Court observed, that they suffered because the children of the influential people are not in the school. And if you start the schools, for the caste and for the community or religion base, that you are not only fragmenting the society, but you are completely diluting the public institution, because nobody cares for public institution where poor children are going, unless the better off and the well-off sections, influential sections send their children to the same school where the poor children go. Quality of education is very difficult for improving. So what we argue is that if there are certain special needs to be taken, maybe that has to be built into the common school system, a special attention, more attention to the children coming from marginalized. I mean, certain built-in checks can be built, but if you do not have a common school, and if you have schools for better off and the schools for the poorer section, I think the education will never improve. So common school is a solution to the present neglect of the public institution. Allahabad High Court made this observation very aptly. The other question that Mallige raised, I think, the problem is democracy ultimately is protected by the people's vigilance. And it is the whenever there is a deficiency in the democracy, and there is a failure of the rulers, the correction always comes from the society, from the civil society. So correction always comes from social movements. So today, Dalit movement or feminist movement or tribal movement, the movements, common school should be made a part of their struggle, and they should demand quality education along with the children of the better off sections. So unless it becomes a part of the larger social movement, the democracy or the distortions in democracy cannot be corrected.
There is one more question from Mr. Venugopal, who is also here in this Zoom. This one, can the union government reject the STARS initiative program? That is one. The second question is, Hargopal ji, was it not the lowering of budget and systematically starving the public education as well as health systems that has led to deterioration of public systems, and this has been done to promote privatization?
Yeah, shall I answer?
Yes, sir. There are two questions.
Yeah, in fact, lowering of the budget or neglect in the budget of education is because those who can influence the budgetary priorities are the people who are not interested in the public education. The lobbies which work, they are not interested. If they are really interested, then they will see to it that the budgetary allocation increases, because they are the people who lobby, they are the people who are influential, they are the people who are in power. So therefore, budgetary neglect or the lowering of the budget is a consequence of of the indifference of the influential, powerful classes to the larger sections of the society. So the only way is that if you restore the common school, then there will be a powerful pressure both from the people and from the elite sections, and then the budgetary allocation will go up. So even for increasing the budget, you need that it should come through a common school system. I think that's one solution to the lowering of budget. About the world, the trade organization or the World Bank, I think we have seen that when India submitted an offer to the World Trade Organization WTO on higher education, we built a movement. I do not say that because of AFRT movement, for different reasons that didn't come through, but we did put a pressure. And now, of course, the chances are more because Trump himself is subverting the institutions, and America itself, is in a different mood altogether. So, even the international financial agencies, United Nations, and all of them, they are all, completely feeling where the Trump is threatening everybody because American economy got back into crisis. And to protect their own crisis, the entire WTO priorities and the WTO functioning, they are subverting. So I think now spaces are being opened to the third world and developing societies to put more pressure, and every reason why we have to withdraw from the market forces because it is not a marketable commodity. I think we have to argue with the international agencies, very strong argument that these are the areas. Even the World Bank would say that as far as the school education is concerned, they don't say it's a non-merit good. Only higher education, they say non-merit good. But I think we have to build, and the nations will have to withdraw, or the terms of the conditions have to be changed. The terms have to be changed. So therefore, nations have to put pressure, but they will put pressure provided there is a popular pressure from inside the country. I think that's how it has to be tackled.
Dr. Vikas,
Okay.
there are no more questions on Facebook.
I request, in case from the people who have made special efforts to make this program a success, the entire organizing team, in case they have anything to comment or
yeah,
ask.
Vikas, there is one question from Venu Gopalji. He has messaged it to me. So
yeah, read out.
Okay, so the question is, can the union? No, sorry, there is another question.
This was to be taken. This one we have taken.
Is the STARS program permitted or accepted by our union government? Venugopal Kaveti ji is asking.
Okay.
I think it is already signed. No, it has already been signed. It is definitely it has been accepted.
Yeah. In fact, on 26th, June, I think, or 26th June, the CEO of the World Bank rather, made a press statement that, finally we have sanctioned. So the sanction happens only when the government asks for loan, so that is what we know so far. But we'll find more about it. Madhuji, in case you have any other further information about it that you can add, surely. Madhuji? Okay, so Dr. Akash Bhattacharya, Dr. V. Prasad, Mallige, Shashank, Tavisha, Madhusudan, Jyotiji, and Sana and the entire team. In case you have anything to ask or anything to comment, that's your special chance. And it's also an acknowledgement, a public acknowledgement of your contribution to really make it a success. We all should clap for each other and, in case there's anything you can raise. Otherwise, we can close it with this information that on Friday, which is 17th of July, at the same time at 4 o'clock, we will have the third round of discussion on this issue. And we will have two very eminent scholars and presidium members of the AIFRT, Professor Chakradhar Rao and Professor Madhu Prasad as main speakers. But that day, apart from understanding the STARS project and its politics and the context, we would really like to discuss in detail, how should we fight this? So that is going to be a special focus, and if required, we may even organize afterwards, if required, a separate discussion on just devising ways of fighting this politics of the World Bank and the global politics to destroy India's public education system. हम फ्राइडे को, शुक्रवार को शाम को 4 बजे इस श्रृंखला के तीसरे अंक के साथ मौजूद होंगे, जहां प्रोफेसर मधु प्रसाद और प्रोफेसर चक्रधर राव मुख्य वक्ता होंगे। प्रोफेसर जगमोहन सिंह जो चेयरपर्सन है पार्टी के, वो भी मौजूद होंगे वैलिडिटी एड्रेस के साथ। लेकिन उस दिन का मुख्य जो फोकस होगा वो इस पूरी पॉलिटिक्स को समझने के साथ साथ इस बात पर होगा कि इसका मुकाबला कैसे किया जाए, क्या रणनीति बनाई जाए, किस तरह की कार्य योजना विकसित की जाए, और यदि समय कम पड़ गया तो हम उसके लिए फिर एक अगली मीटिंग भी रख सकते हैं। पर कोशिश करेंगे कि जितनी बात उस दिन हो सके उस दिन, और आप लोग इसके बारे में सोचें, एंड देन वील सी यू अगेन ऑन फ्राइडे। और आज के जो प्रोग्राम की रिकॉर्डिंग है वो भी, और जो पहले वाला अंक था उसकी भी रिकॉर्डिंग जल्दी ही हमारा जो AIFRT का जो YouTube चैनल है, AIFRT कैंपेन के नाम से, उस पर अपलोड की जाएगी जल्दी ही। आप सबसे उम्मीद है कि आप उसे सब्सक्राइब करेंगे ताकि वो ज़्यादा लोगों की विजिबिलिटी उसमें हो सके। You all are informed that we will soon upload the recording of the first as well as the second session on the YouTube channel, that is the AIFRT campaign. And you all are requested to subscribe to that channel. And we will try that next time we make it live on YouTube as well. So with this hope, with the permission of the chairperson, may we close it now, Professor Jagmohan?
I think it is a very successful session, and thanks to everybody participating on both channels, the Zoom meeting and this. So I think it is time to close. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Meet again.
Thank you, Professor Jagmohan. Thank you, Dr. Vikas
Thank
Gupta.
you.
Thank you,
Dr.
Indrani ma'am,
Prasad.
Professor Hargopal, Jyoti Kamble. Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you on Friday.
Okay, before you log out, please note that Madhuji and everybody from the Presidium Secretariat and boards and committees, I will send a mail, but you should not miss it, that tomorrow at what time, Professor Jagmohan? 6 o'clock?
Sir, Vikas sir.
6 o'clock.
It's
6 o'clock
running
we will
live.
have, that's fine. 6 o'clock we will have a meeting, online meeting, for these two urgent items. It's fine, let it go public. In case people have not still responded, they can give us their own suggestions about the online education issue, and as well as this scratching of syllabus from the NCERT textbook. Tomorrow we are going to have tomorrow we will have a meeting at 6 o'clock of the Presidium Secretariat.
The syllabus.
Presidium Secretariat, boards and committees. So no, we do not provide any e-certificates. We are not any certifying body. I'm just responding to a question. Okay, so we will have that meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Professor Jagmohan will send the link to everyone in the Presidium Secretariat, boards and committees. But other people can also make their suggestions on both of these issues, the online education issue, for which the draft is ready. We will, share it after tomorrow's meeting. And also on this whole issue of the scratching of the textbook syllabus from the NCERT textbooks. So in case you have anything to say on that, if you are not member of the Presidium Secretariat and boards and committees, you can send your suggestions in advance also to aifrt.secretariat@gmail.com. And when we meet tomorrow, we will take those views also in